Senator Babbitt.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. I rise here today to speak on the dangers of the 15-minute city. Now, Victorian government has begun pitching a brand new but old idea taken from the playbook of our best mates at the World Economic Forum, the 15-minute city, sometimes called the 20-minute city. You know what? It doesn't matter. It's all the same garbage. Imagine a 15-minute city where you won't need a car, where you won't need to travel much at all, where everything you'll ever need will be provided for you and it's all within easy reach. So convenient, sounds great. That's the charm of the new era of soft totalitarianism. It's always for your benefit, and so people willingly, even eagerly will agree to be caged. Sorry, I didn't mean to use the word caged. Slip of the tongue, that's what it was. Kind of like Klaus Schwab didn't mean to say that the elites are going to push us to a point where we will own nothing, zip nada, and we will be happy because they will own everything and they'll be even happier. Now, that's not a conspiracy theory. It's called servitization. Look it up. I'll give you an example of servitization. Once upon a time, we used to own DVDs. We don't anymore. Now you have a streaming service. You don't own it. Once upon a time, people would easily buy homes. Not anymore. Not like today. Now you're more likely to rent. You don't own it. What about a car? One day you won't own a car. It's all going to be ride share. You don't own it. Someone else owns it. But you'll be happy though. Now, this 15-minute city, it is not an original thought from our Premier, Daniel Andrews, as if such a thing as an original thought ever existed in a Premier's head. It's a plan parroted straight from the WEF and from the UN and other globalist organisations who have been busy sowing this idea around the world. Now, governments, as an example, in the UK, they've already announced plans to divide cities into separately administered districts, which they claim will help meet the country's sustainability goals by reducing the needs for citizens to travel. The government will ensure you and your family are well catered for and, of course, well contained, which I suspect is rather more the point. In a tiny precinct that you'll probably never need to leave. Now, the climate emergency, the crisis, the disaster, the catastrophe, or whatever it is they're calling it these days, if it's as bad as the UN would have us believe, then perhaps we'll never be allowed to leave our 15-minute zone. Now, I jest, of course. I'm only joking. People will, of course, be allowed to travel outside their allotted 15-minute zone. They'll just have to pay a modest toll or a levy in order to leave their district. But other than that, oh, and of course the surveillance, but other than that, they'll be completely free. Now, some will go ahead and say, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, but it's not even a theory. It's happening in plain sight for all to see. Just ask the residents of Oxford in the UK if they think it's a conspiracy theory. They're living in it right now. Now, I remember in 2020 when the media accused everyone that said that the government would use COVID as an excuse to abuse civil liberties was a conspiracy theorist. We all know how that turned out, especially in my home state of Victoria. Now, overlay this 15-minute city with the coming social credit system and the digital ID, just like in communist China, just like in the CCP, and you can begin to understand what the future might hold if we continue to allow things like this to move ahead unabated, unchecked. Now, Victorians, we know all too well what it's like to be constricted and to be locked down in a zone. The government's designed to corral us all into zones. No matter how the supposed benefits are sold, is cynical and it is sinister, and it must be resisted. It must be discussed. It must be considered. To people at home, I say, do not leave your fate in the hands of government because power corrupts. Take an interest in what is happening in your community, in your state. Take an interest in who governs you. Don't just go to the ballot box, tick a box and forget about it. That's not the right way to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator.